Welcome into the Fantasy Guides podcast. My name is Andrew Toysher, and I am joined today by the owner, the operator of Fantasy Guides and fantasyguides.com, Stephen Rippey. And my computer volume is turned up very, very loudly, so that was ringing through my ears. Love the intro, though. Love the energy. Stephen, we were ready to go on the buy-sell pod and trades and have our fantasy trades discussed, but the NFL decided to turn into the NBA briefly and actually go into some real NFL trades. So we're going to react to that immediately and then get into our normal buys and sells because, there's more action to be done off of those real NFL trades along with what we're about to give you. Steven, were you prepared to have to type up a whole bunch of stuff and get ready for all these trades to fly in? Because it kind of came out of nowhere.
No, and I wanted them to happen. I think we all thought this was going to happen with Davante Adams in particular, going to the Jets. Just a matter of time. I wish it didn't happen on a Tuesday. Tuesdays when I put out probably the most content of any day of the week. So to have to kind of stop, like Andrew, I still got to put out a waivers post. I don't even remember, people still got to do the waiver wire and stuff. So still working on that stuff. But quick reactions. I did do one reaction to that one. We'll do another one on Amari that people can look at. But obviously, a good thing for Aaron Rodgers. I think this offense will probably be more pass heavy now. It hasn't been so far. I still think Garrett Wilson's the number one there, but I had a lot of people ready to fight me in the street saying that Adams would be the number two in Green Bay, in New York. What's your opinion? Do you think it's still Garrett Wilson, or do you think that the connection's strong enough with him and Adams that Adams is the number one?
I think Adams is still a big time target earner, and the issue we've seen is that Mr. Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers don't have a connection. I think it is just a 1A, 1B, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown kind of scenario. I don't think we'll know weekly.
Yeah, so Adams is the wide receiver 15 on points per game right now. I think in a best case scenario, he's better than that. But in a more realistic scenario, I think he could be worse than that. It just depends on if this offense takes a big step forward, because Garrett Wilson, regardless of what you think, he's earning a lot of targets. Allen Lazard is still earning a decent amount of targets. So yeah, I think that I predict it will still be Garrett Wilson getting more of the targets. Whether it's a lot more, I don't know. Overall, though, all the pass catchers in that offense, I don't think it's a great thing for. I think it's good for Rodgers. I think it's a slight downgrade to all the pass catchers.
Definitely. I don't think it's horrific, apocalyptic for Garrett Wilson. You have to view it as a downgrade, though. And Davante Adams, I think for him, you could almost view it as you're going to get better volume. You're going to get better efficiency.
Maybe more touchdowns.
But you're not going to get as much volume. For him, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's exciting. It's more fun.
Maybe he is Devonta Smith moving forward. It could be. Or Garrett Wilson is. And then the Amari Cooper trade, obviously, good thing for Josh Allen. He is literally carrying that entire offense on his back and doing it admirably. Ugh, that's a hard word to say. But we have seen Josh Allen struggle compared to what we're used to seeing with Josh Allen. Now, I know he did have the good game last night, but it took everything for him to put up 24 fantasy points. I think a typical Josh Allen, that's 40 fantasy points, what he did last night. So I think Amari Cooper is going to help. I think it gets Allen closer to that overall QB1. I don't know if it still puts him right there. There's so many, or if it still gives him that advantage he's had in the past, but it gets him closer to that. So love it for him. Definitely love it for Amari Cooper. His quarterback play with Deshaun Watson was just dreadful, completely dreadful. So I think he's like a wide receiver 4 right now. I got to think he gets up to at least a wide receiver 2 moving forward.
This was just perfect. The Davante Adams trade, it felt like it was going to happen. I don't think any of us were too shocked. This Amari Cooper trade was pretty shocking. We didn't know for sure he'd be traded at all. We heard rumors. But this is so perfect. It's so fitting. It feels so good. Browns, give up on your season. You have Deshaun Watson. Let Josh Allen have somebody. Like you said, Amari Cooper, wide receiver 36 on the season. He's a minimum wide receiver 2, top 24 option the rest of the way.
Yeah, and one thing I like about the matching there is the one thing I didn't like about Stephon Diggs is he was that diva that complained about Josh Allen or complained about not getting targets. That's the opposite of Amari Cooper. I think these guys will have a good connection. I'm excited for these two, and I'm excited for this offense moving forward. And I'm glad that I was panicking a little bit on Josh Allen and my dynasty team, and now I'm feeling better about it.
Absolutely. Passing options all going down. I think Kincaid's fine, but the rest of the passing options, they're a little down. overall, there was just Matt Collins, sorry, buddy, you're irrelevant now. So sorry to everyone who picked up Matt Collins. Hopefully you didn't do that. But speaking of trades, off from the real trades, onto the fantasy trades so that your team can improve. And let's get into our buys and sells. Steven's got 2 buys. I've got 1. Let's start with 1, Steven. Who's your first buy?
All right. So I think we've talked about this in other episodes. One of the best times to buy is right before a bye week on a player. And I think DJ Moore having that down game in London where he only had 5 targets, only had 20 some receiving yards, just bad fantasy day, but it could have been a lot better. If you watch the game, Andrew, and Caleb missed him on what would have been a pretty big touchdown. It could have been like a 40-some yard touchdown, way underthrown. The ball ended up getting intercepted. And then later in the game had one where DJ Moore got tackled just short of the goal line, which would have been another one. So he almost had a really big fantasy day. Instead, he didn't. And people a lot of times just look at the box score. And if they're looking at the box score, they're probably not happy with it. If they're a team that's struggling and they're going to the bye week, they're looking for other options. And that's when I think it's a great time to try to jump on him, especially with the fact that Caleb Williams is looking a lot better. He's looking more comfortable. They're passing more. I think this whole offense is just getting better in general, and I think DJ Moore is going to benefit. And it also helps that he has the easiest remaining schedule moving forward. So I love DJ Moore as a buy right now.
He's got the 14th most targets in the NFL. We're seeing the Bears throw the ball more and throw it better as the offense gets more competent. And man, it couldn't have gotten worse. Those first 2 weeks, panic in the streets. You should have been worried. We even had DJ Moore as a buy earlier. It's worth reiterating DJ Moore as a buy again because that was a couple of weeks ago. He is talented. Caleb's clearly talented. Fat Keenan still slugging around, somehow catching 2 touchdowns. But I guess it makes sense. He's basically a tight end now, and that's where tight ends get their points is off of touchdowns. So I think DJ Moore is going to keep eating. I think that offense is going to be improved. And thank goodness, because the Bears, how funny would it have been if they actually were going to completely flop on Caleb? Like, it would have been so fitting, right, Steven, if the Bears got the best prospect of this generation, which we've had 4 of this generation, and still managed to flop on him.
It's feeling like they didn't. It feels like they did it right, but this stuff it's not going to hit the ground running week 1. Keenan Allen was hurt, but like everybody in the offense is starting to look good now. Remember all the panic on Cole Kmet? Everyone was like, oh, it's Gerald Everett. Well, Cole Kmet completely looks like the tight end 1 there. Keenan Allen, now that he's healthy, maybe not prime Keenan, but he's looking better. DJ Moore's looking good. DeAndre Swift's looking better. So this whole offense, I think, is taking off.
Hopefully it keeps soaring. DJ Moore, 26% target share. We'll take that. So as the Bears offense goes, so will DJ Moore is what that tells us. I got another buy. And to your point, it's exactly what you're saying with you want to buy guys going into their bye week because people look ahead in their lineup, so they're worried, especially if someone has a sub 500 record at this point in your league and they're panicking, they need something. Go buy the Dallas Cowboys passing game. It looked terrible. Everything Cowboys looked terrible. Here's the thing with these bad games like the Cowboys just had, they snowball. So a bad game turns into just a terrible game because the vibes are way off. Everything's horrible. Everyone's sad. Dak literally did not play a quarter of this game. He played 74% of the snaps this last game. Everything is thrown off. I'm throwing it away. Yes, it was a bad performance, but going forward, remember last season, Steven? When the Cowboys everyone was ready to fire Mike McCarthy and trade away Dak, and CeeDee Lamb is never going to break out. Remember that at the beginning of last year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, guess what? That happened through the first 6 weeks. Then they came back from a week 7 bye, and they were phenomenal. This year, hey, buddy, we're week 6, week 7 bye, and that is when Dak went ballistic the rest of the way. Last year, before that week 7 bye, he had 1 20-point game, and we knew he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league, repetitively 20 points after 20 points after 20 points when he came back. I think he's going to do the same thing because he has the 6th easiest remaining schedule the rest of the way. And a lot of that, I think, is actually, he should have a better one because the Philadelphia Eagles are weirdly a bad matchup for quarterbacks. They're not. They just keep playing these bad teams.
They just played Deshaun Watson.
Exactly. And they shut down like Derek Carr. For whatever reason, they just been having luck, I think, in the touchdown department in the passing game. The Philadelphia Eagles, you can still throw on them. Dak Prescott will. He is the third most dropbacks in the NFL. They have to throw because they can't run. Rico Dowdle, he's fine. Zeke Elliott looks like a mummy out there waltzing around this Halloween season. So Dak Prescott has to throw. And we're going to see, I think, some more touchdown regression. They're 14th in points per game, which is middle of the road, but they're third in passing yards per game, with the 8th fewest touchdowns scored. So I think there's just some yardage regression there. One of the most signifying statistics of future fantasy success is, firstly, past fantasy success, which we've seen with Dak, and yardage. Yardage leads to touchdowns. It makes sense. You drive down the field, you score points. That's what's been missing. And I think the Cowboys are about to regress in a big way. CD, same thing, 6th easiest schedule. He is 6th in targets, but he's the wide receiver 17 in points per game because he just has 2 touchdowns. I think we're going to see everyone return to form. This is your chance to buy. The Cowboys always do this. Buy the Cowboys second half.
Yeah, and you're looking at, I think you're looking at adjusted, or you're including week 18. I don't know for sure.
Adjusted.
Okay. Just raw numbers. I have Dallas with the second easiest schedule moving forward.
There you go.
I had Dak as a buy last week in that post that we put out. Didn't hit. And honestly, Andrew, if you were to tell me at home they were going to be playing the Detroit Lions and the Detroit Lions were going to score 47 points, I would have said Dak would have had 40 fantasy points in that game. Garbage time, whatever. He scored 5. He scored 5 fantasy points. You don't have to convince people to hate on Dak. It's pretty easy to do. So unless the person in your league's a Cowboys fan or just a Dak truther or honestly actually really knows fantasy football and knows Dak is a good fantasy quarterback and overall, in general, a pretty good quarterback, I would try to get him as well because, like you said, this happens every year. We have a large enough sample size with Dak Prescott. Like, he's a good quarterback. At worst, you're probably getting the QB 10 rest of the season, at worst. So I totally buy into this. I'm getting him as well.
Yeah, and the whole team, like, their defense is hurt. And I know that sounds stupid the Dallas defense doesn't help Dak Prescott. It does. When you're staying in games and it's competitive and you aren't playing Dak the last quarter of the game, that hurts.
Yeah.
I think everything will come back to normal-ish, and it won't be.
And that sorry, I just interrupt, but that Detroit defense is good. They've shut down a lot of good quarterbacks this season. So I would pay attention to maybe Detroit's for real. And that was just a really bad one. More good games are to come.
Unfortunately, it won't be so good anymore, that Detroit defense without Aiden Hutchinson. But
I know. I want to see a trade for that. They need to make a trade. Go get
you some Max Crosby. Everyone
or Myles
wants
Garrett
to see
or something. Yeah.
Go do it. All right, Steven. We gotta go a little quicker. I'm sorry off of the last one because of the trade talk at the beginning. Yep. This one's simple and easy. Talk to me about your next buy.
Okay, so Baker Mayfield, this is kind of a hold buy. So the reason I brought him up is I've had a few people DM me saying, would you trade Baker Mayfield for Kyler Murray? Specifically, I keep getting asked Kyler Murray, and I was like, you know what? Let me actually look into that and let me get back to you. And my thought is no, I'm not going to do that. No, more times than not, I would say yes, make that trade. But we've already talked about Kyler as a sell because of his very difficult remaining schedule. Whereas Baker, it's the opposite. Baker has a very good remaining schedule. He's got the 5th easiest remaining schedule. And so if you have him, I'm just riding with it. If you have another quarterback that you drafted, which if you have Baker, there's a very good chance you drafted another quarterback. Maybe you try to sell him then, but only if you're getting something really good in return. It would kind of depend on who your other quarterback is. But like I said, he's got the 5th easiest remaining schedule. He just played the Saints, who were top 10 against quarterbacks. And Baker just lit them up for 4 touchdowns and 325 passing yards. Upcoming games, a lot of them look to be shootouts. He's got Baltimore, Atlanta, Kansas City, San Francisco, and Dallas all coming up. Most of those are pretty suspect secondaries that I think he can exploit. So I think those will be good. And the other games that he has, twice he plays Carolina, which that's a gimme game. And then he plays the Raiders. His upcoming schedule is like a top 5 schedule. He leads the NFL with 15 touchdown passes. He has the 2nd highest passer rating. He's on pace for 42 touchdown passes. He's also run 2 touchdowns in already on the ground, and he's averaging 22 rushing yards per game. So he's actually giving you like just a little tiny bit of the Konami code there with a 2 points per game added just with rushing, not to mention those touchdowns he's adding. So I'm buying in. I think this is going to be one of those special seasons from Baker. And so I'm not really looking to get off of it.
It's just that touchdown season. He's just getting touchdown lucky because he's got these incredible weapons, and I think he's going to keep doing it, and he just don't care. Baker Mayfield don't care. He's going to throw the ball. He's going to chuck it downfield. And why not? You have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Bucky Irving looks great. Rashad White, I give him a lot of grief. He's not horrible. He's not great, but he's a weapon. There's so many weapons in this offense. So
well, and he's also, it's not just the touchdowns, though. He's also 8th in passing yards. So
this is true.
I just think overall, he's having a very well-rounded season. It's not that there's one statistic that's super inflated. I think that he's just getting it done. He just looks like he's finally matured into that quarterback that's actually a good NFL quarterback.
He reminds me a lot of Kirk Cousins, having just turned that page, played enough games. When quarterbacks get over the moon, get over to age 30, and they're still playing in the NFL, Baker being 29, so almost there, they've just played enough that if they're talented at all, they're going to be good. Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield. Buy into it. Keep them.
And
Baker's for real.
And if you're thinking, like, are people backing off of Chris Godwin being like a top 10 wide receiver? They probably aren't. They're probably not really backing off of Mike Evans. So if they're not backing off of those players, probably not the quarterback throwing to them.
Absolutely, Baker. You're the boy. Sells, though. We got to get rid of some guys. If we're going to buy some guys, you got to sell some guys. You don't just get these for free unless you're in a guillotine league where it's really, really fun. Need to do one of those some of these days. But sells. One guy that I have as a sell, and let me double check if we even had him as a buy semi-recently, is Najee Harris. I had him as a buy.
Well, I think we had him as a buy like weeks ago when he had a good upcoming schedule, which a lot of times when we talk about this stuff, it's buy. It doesn't mean we're going to like buy them for the entire season. It's like to buy them for a period of time, and then we will recommend them as a sell at some point as well.
It's all relative. Najee's value was very low. We'd even have him as a buy on YouTube. Okay. I think we might have had it in a post somewhere, but we had him as a relative low buy because no one cared about him. Everyone thought the Pittsburgh Steelers offense was going to be terrible. You have to roll Justin Fields out there for the Steelers. They're going to be bad. Hopefully Russ will come back and they'll be okay. And they turned out to be good, but now they're benching Justin Fields. But that has nothing to do with this. Najee Harris blew up for 106 yards and a touchdown on the ground with highlight reel runs left and right. I don't know if you saw it, but there's a run where he goes up the middle, tucks his head down, gets hit at the 2 yards from the line of scrimmage, and he just kept moving his legs, and those dreads are going everywhere, and he trucked his way for a 15-yard gain on something that should not have been more than 3 yards. And Najee looked great. The issue, Jaylen Warren's back. And he's didn't look good just then, and he didn't look good earlier because he's been battling this hamstring. But while Warren was away, Najee was getting so much work, averaging 72% of snaps and even had a 17% target share. Najee was an absolute workhorse, and I don't think this is not you have to sell him because Warren's going to take the job and make him worth nothing. It's just that volume's going to come down, and Warren's really good. We've talked about it. People have just gotten off of Jaylen Warren after he was that champion backup running back who's actually better than the starter, and everyone's like Bucky Irving basically is what Jaylen Warren is. He's going to steal some work. Najee had a 48% of snaps this last week because Jaylen Warren's coming back. And he's going to keep revving up and getting more and more work as it goes on. And it doesn't help at all that the Steelers have the hardest remaining schedule on schedule adjusted outlook for the rest of the season for running backs. So not only is his volume going to go down, but his efficiency should also go down. Now, again, I don't think he's worthless. Russell Wilson being the starter does mean dump off passes. But if they aren't going to score a whole lot, you will just see them having to dump off the ball if they fall behind because Russ kind of stinks. I'm a little worried about our boy Najee.
Yeah, I almost had him also as a sell, and then you told me you'd already picked him. The one thing that gave me pause was the Russell Wilson thing. If he does become the starter, I don't think it's fully confirmed yet, but if he does end up starting, I do think he'll get more receptions. However, I think the snap share kind of will counter that because like you said, he's been getting so many snaps. I think that goes back to a 50-50 to where it negates any volume he might get in the passing game. And yeah, what I'm seeing, he's also got the hardest schedule coming up. He's got the Jets this week, a Jets team that will have a good offense, a better offense now that will probably be on the field more. He's got the Giants who have got a pretty decent run.
They have a good D-line. They're very talented.
Bye week. And then he's got games against Baltimore, Cleveland again. He's got Philadelphia, Baltimore again, Kansas City. So yeah, he's got a rough schedule. Like there's no no easy matchups, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matchups that are in that are against either the 11th or worse, like good defenses to go up against. So yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Sorry, Najee. I really, really like Najee Harris. I hope he goes somewhere else next year so that Warren and him can just go their separate ways. Still DM, write each other notes. Maybe they'll still be best friends, but they need to separate. They need to live their own lives.
I'd like to see him go to Kansas City.
That'd be perfect.
If he goes to Kansas City, you'll never know when he's on the field, Kareem Hunt, or when they bring Pacheco. When Pacheco eventually comes back, they all run, especially Najee and Pacheco, they all run like they hate the ground.
They're angry.
Their hair flies everywhere. They're all a bit bigger backs.
They're a little chunky.
You would never know who's on the field.
Oh, Steven, don't wish that upon us. They'll also probably all wear like number 2, number 12, and 22, and we'll just never know.
Be painful.
Don't wish that upon us. It'll be Alexander Madison and Dalvin Cook all over again.
For sure.
Steven, what running back are you selling? I'll reveal it. It's DeAndre Swift. I'm not sure I agree with this. You're going to have to convince me.
Okay, so I just talked about how the offense is going to be so good. Like, it's improving. So this is a sell high, Andrew. Sell high. And the main reason being that he's put in 3 straight top 6 performances. DeAndre Swift has. He's finished as the RB3, the RB3, and the RB6 over his past 3 games. So this is me like trying to make a move to get. You're not going to get these in 1-for-1, but I'm gonna target some people that might be panicking on a player like, who knows, like Saquon Barkley or something after his dud game. Like last week, it could have been Breece Hall, or it could have been Bijan Robinson or something. So I'm going to look at some players that maybe I'm going to try to buy low on. All of those games that Swift just had were against bad teams overall. Teams that are struggling with offense, teams that don't have a great defense. The Bears were favorites in all those contests. It was a very easy slate of games that he just had. And now this is also a situation where you don't have to sell right now. This is not like get him off your roster right now, because he does have matchups against Washington, Arizona, and New England coming up. So I think he can perform well in those. But again, I'm just reiterating, he just finished top 6 3 straight games in a row. I don't know that he can continue that. His value's sky high after those games. Now, he currently has the 6th hardest remaining schedule moving forward. But after those games that I just mentioned, he has the 3rd most difficult schedule moving forward. From weeks 11 through 16, he plays Green Bay. He plays the Lions twice, which, yes, the Lions, maybe they're not going to be quite as good without Hutch. But he's got the Lions twice. He's got Minnesota twice, which we know how good that defense is playing under Brian Flores. And he's got the Niners. Minnesota and Detroit are currently top 3 versus running backs, and the other 2 are top 15. Again, not a must sell, but this is something where I'd look ahead and see if I could maybe upgrade somewhere else. If you got Swift, there's a good chance he could be your RB3 on your roster. You got him probably pretty cheap when you drafted him. So this is just try to maximize value kind of situation.
To your point, from week 7 to 11, he is the 7th easiest schedule amongst running backs, but that stretch right after is so difficult that for schedule adjusted, sake, he's the 3rd hardest remaining. So be responsible. Go out there. And so often we buy on impulse. We sell on impulse. Go out there, dabble, look at the market, check the interest rates like you're buying a home. Save up. And then when you find the right guy, the right pal, the right match in life, then sell DeAndre Swift. You got a little bit of time.
Yep. Like I'm even thinking off the top of my head, someone like James Cook, who is just a little banged up right now, didn't play. It's amazing how quickly people can turn on a player that
so easily
they didn't get to use. So I would explore some of those type of avenues and see what you can get for Swift.
Absolutely. People just, if they have one bad week, I hate them. I forget them. They're gone. Yep. I would go and turn and maybe find like a J.K. Dobbins, who has a tough schedule, but is such a stranglehold on that backfield. It's probably worth dabbling into. You could probably get Brian Robinson plus something for DeAndre Swift, and I don't even think it's that different.
You could get A-Chain plus something, and A-Chain's got a very easy schedule moving forward. If Tua comes back, I don't see how that trade doesn't work out in your favor.
Big fan. Go get something you like. Shop responsibly. You have the time.
Yeah.
Be responsible. Sell DeAndre Swift.
Especially with the bye week coming up. You can hold on to those 3 games he just had for an extra week and just be like, look what he's been doing,
When people go on their sleeper app and they pull up DeAndre Swift's game log, it's really difficult not to get excited.
Exactly. I mean, I had to question whether I even wanted him as a sell. And again,
his utilization is incredible. It is legit. We're just saying He's at an all-time high.
Yep.
All right. So I didn't like this one. I had to make one more sell.
Okay.
So I got this itch. And sometimes I get this inclination of, man, this makes sense. I want to have this take. But just saying the name sounds bad, so I don't want to do it. But Marvin Harrison Jr. has to be a sell. And it's kind of piggybacking off of what we were saying about Kyler Murray. Marvin Harrison Jr. right now, the exciting rookie. Maybe not as exciting as Malik Neighbors at this point, but he was one of the most exciting young players going into this year. He was a wide receiver 1 drafted first, second round. He was the wide receiver 27 right now. So it's not awful, but it's had some huge weeks that people have seen, taken note of, big touchdowns. But he ranks 35th in total targets. That's really concerning. Now, where I'm a little concerned on this sell and where it might come back to get me is he's getting a very hefty target share. Now, that's not illegitimate. The target share is real. He has a 22% target share with some spike weeks, couple 30% in there. The issue is they aren't throwing the ball. Arizona has the 7th lowest passing rate over expectation. They don't want to throw. And even though they're falling behind, as we keep seeing, they're still running the ball, and they're running very few plays because their defense is so bad. They don't want to put them back out there. They want to make these games drag out, and they're sending Marv way down the field, hoping that he will catch a deep bomb, make a big play. He's in the top 15 of ADOT. And that's just not sustainable on the amount of targets he's getting, again, ranking 35th. You're not selling him for nothing. I'm not saying Marv isn't going to be playable. I just think he might be a wide receiver 3 like he literally is right now for the rest of the year. But you get to sell him as Marvin Harrison Jr., son of the Hall of Famer, that incredible draft pick from earlier this year. And he has the 5th hardest remaining strength of schedule, going with schedule adjusted there. In addition to that, this is just playing the system. He's missing 2 games, the rest of this year. This week, he's going to miss it with a concussion, and then he still has a bye week. And people might think concussion, he'll probably play. This year, no, probably not. So he's missing 2 more games, and I don't think the rest of those are going to be that advantageous. So I'm willing to sell Marvin Harrison Jr.
Well, the fact that he is going to miss this week, that actually I don't love, because that's actually one of his very tough matchups that he has coming up. He goes against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 the Chargers, who give up the 5th fewest points, fantasy points. Then he's got the 3rd fewest fantasy points, then the 6th, then the 4th, and wait, am I looking at this right? Sorry, Andrew.
He's got the Chargers, the Dolphins, the Bears, the Jets. All very hard schedule adjusted.
I thought you said he had a bye like right after that. My bad.
Oh, no. He'll eventually have a bye.
Yeah, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 games in a row against bottom 6 defenses at stopping wide receivers, then the bye, and then the 11th worst matchup. He finally gets a good game. Like after that, I think he gets Jacksonville somewhere in there.
Minnesota, who's
is
a
it
good
Minnesota?
relative matchup. Yeah,
it's Minnesota. I just saw the 32, and I thought that's got to be the Jaguars. No, I'm kind of with you on that one. Just the usage is there, but the matchups are going to be tough. You're even selling me even more on wanting to trade Kyler Murray, though, because this just, not only does it look bad for him, it looks bad for Marv. Marv killed me. I lost a game this week because not his fault. He got a concussion, but I lost by a half a point. So when you see a big 0 from Marvin Harrison, if you're like me, you're probably bitter and you're ready to ship him off. But no, I think that's a good solid move. Maybe try to buy him again right before week 13 when he plays Minnesota. But yeah, it's rough coming up.
If you have a losing schedule, if you have 1, 2 wins and you're worried, he's not playing 2 to the next 5 games. You got to get rid of him. You got to ship him off. And the games he is playing, those are horrible matchups. So Marvin, I'm sorry. All right, Steven, we made it. Real trades, fantasy trades, all of the trades, all covered. Go check out our post on Instagram. We're going to have the trades more in depth, accounting for every single player a part of those real trades, those Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams trades, and how they are affected. We go into more depth there. You'll see more buys and sells on there. Make sure you guys tune in for our show on Thursday. That comes out Thursday night so that you can be ready for your week ahead. Thank you for tuning in to the Fantasy Guides podcast. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Please go rate, review, subscribe, share us everywhere. That's the best thing you can do for us. You guys have been loving this content, and we've been making it for you. Get a weekly season guide from fantasyguides.com for less than the price of a large pizza. Get all the stats that we use and more. Follow up our page on Instagram, X, TikTok, everywhere at Fantasy Guides, easy to spell. I'm Andrew Teuscher. That's Stephen Rippey. Stephen, say goodbye to the friends at home.
I think you just said love making.
We love making friends. Say goodbye to them. Say bye, Stephen.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Andrew.